Scott Fell in the building.
Let's go. Let's go.
What's up, man? I told my crew whenever you were coming in, I'm like, we have some other chairs sitting in here. I said, I have to switch my chairs. This guy's going to snap my chair if he tries to sit down and stay.
Bulking.
Bulking time right now, and still a low percentage of body fat. We were just talking about that. But so I'm going to summarize you. I'm going to bring you in real quick, and then we're going to dive into your story. Guys, this guy has an incredible story, really, in how fitness kind of changed your entire life. And
saved me.
Yeah. And we're going to dive into that. So Scott's a bodybuilder. If you're watching this on video, you can obviously tell that. He owns a local, he owns a local business that's probably 10 minutes from here, maybe.
Yep.
Not far. Okay.
About 10 minutes flat.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Fell Fitness.
Yes, sir.
Yep. Downtown. He is certified by, is it IFA?
Is AFA.
AFA. Okay. IFA personal trainer. This guy knows what he's doing. He recently won the Vulcan. What was the competition that was?
Yeah, the Vulcan Classic was last May. It was my first show. I didn't win overall, but I went in light, but I won in my division.
Okay.
Middleweight.
And that was your first show?
My first show. Wow. And I was too light. Probably should have gone in heavier. So I'm about to run it back. I'm in at 175, and I'm currently sitting at 230. And I'll never forget, one of the judges came up to me and he said, I gave you number one because he said my conditioning. Mm-hmm. He said, man, you're see-through. But he said, you're scared to eat. And man, I took that to heart. He's like, go feed. And I was like, well, I was just going to do one show, kind of one and done. I won my division. That's what I, really wanted to do. And then he looked at me and he goes, why would you not do another one? He goes, brother, you just won middleweight your first show. He says, just go eat. And man, I took that to heart. And from that moment on, I mean, you'd ask my fiance, I was like, I went from like conservative calories to eating.
You're up 60 pounds right now. So it's 60 obviously
60 pounds since the show. So, and I got to tell you, and you can ask my beautiful bride, the hanger is gone.
Absolutely.
The struggle is real with the hunger. So I have really enjoyed it.
Well, were you afraid to eat before?
To be honest with you, and just being completely vulnerable, because I think the world that we live in, especially where every single thing is filmed, you want to look your absolute best at all times. You want to be shredded. You want to be low body fat. And I kind of got caught in that world, a little paranoid about, but if I go over this amount of calories, this, that, and the other thing. And again, everything that I've done in fitness has been trial and error with me. Mm-hmm. From going vegan. I went vegan for 2 years. Everything I've done hasn't been through a book. It's been through learning. Yeah. Trial and error. And I'm like, you know what? My energy's low. I'm tired all the time. And I just kept going back to what my brother said. He's just go eat.
Just go eat.
And Hannah's like, and that's my fiance. And she's like, Scott, do it. Try it. And I've loved it.
Here you are. Yeah. So when you mentioned the eating aspect, one of the crazy things to me with bodybuilders is I haven't been in the bodybuilding world too much. I've lived in the functional fitness, CrossFit, Olympic lifting space, but I've treated a lot of bodybuilders, and I've treated them in season. I've treated them out of season, and just the difference, the sheer difference when somebody's out of season. I mean, just body comps totally off the chain, and then they get in season 2 weeks before a competition, and they're 3-4% body fat, and they're miserable at that time because of the amount of water you're drinking. But we talked about that a minute ago. You've stayed considerably lean like throughout the whole process. Before your first competition, were you like, on the other end of the spectrum? I know you said you were 175 for that competition. How lean were you before you started training for the competition?
I got measured at 4.9% body fat before I even competed. And the guy that measured my body fat is like, man, you're there now. But it's just not sustainable. And I wanted to look that way year round. And I have to tell you, the thing with the bulk is, you're not as shredded and everything else. But at the end of the day, I'm still under 10% body fat. And you know what, man? Sometimes you got to trust the process.
Well, that's so much genetics too, that you're bulking like you are and you're still only 10% body fat. That's amazing.
And hard work.
Do you naturally stay pretty lean though before you ever get any training?
Yeah, I do. Both my parents are lean, and and genetics are real, but I'll tell you one thing, man, hard work's real.
Oh yeah.
And you see some guys that everybody, no matter their genetics. If they could step on stage, if they don't have the genetics to step on stage, it doesn't matter. Everyone has an opportunity to have a great body. Hard work pays off.
It does.
Without a doubt.
Absolutely.
And you can ask anybody that knows me. I live and breathe fitness and I live it. I love it. My butt off.
Yeah, he just came here after training people nonstop all day long. He came in here and he said, "Man, can I have a glass of water? I'm about to die. I'm trying to get a gallon in a day right now, and I haven't been able to drink it because I've been training people."
And that's another thing, people, drink your water. You got to drink water.
Exactly.
And I know it sounds like an oxymoron, but the more water you drink, your body acclimates to it. You pee it out, the drier and leaner you stay. So I've had some clients that don't drink water. And again, it goes back to the way that they want to look. They want to look dry and lean. But the more water you drink, your body gets acclimated to it. It says, okay, we're hydrated, pee it out.
Yeah.
And you actually will hold less water.
Oh, absolutely.
You might hold some water for a week, 10 days. But once you do it, I'm telling you, it's a game changer. And you're hydrated, you feel better. You got to drink the water.
We talk about it here a lot. Whenever we have somebody come in for an injury or something, we ask everybody 3 low-hanging fruit questions, what we call them. And one of those questions is, what's your water intake? Because if you are dehydrated, one of the first things that shrinks whenever you're dehydrated is actually your brain. Your brain can be down 3 or 4% of its mass if you're dehydrated. Also, the space between your vertebrae, the discs, they're made up of 99.9% water. So if you're super dehydrated, your discs are literally smaller. There's more friction in the body. It hurts the body to be dehydrated overall.
Without a doubt.
So absolutely.
And man, I notice the same thing when I'm not hydrated with like joint elbows.
Oh yeah.
Because as a 42-year-old guy and almost 43, been lifting for years, you're going to get some tendonitis. Those elbows are going to hurt sometimes. Those knees are going to hurt. I'm not old, but I'm not young. Okay, I mean,
you could
in your 20s, you could say, "Hey, no warm up, let's get it." Now I'm like, warm up, get those elbows, knees ready. But I notice even when I'm dehydrated, my tendonitis in my elbows flares up.
Yeah. So I want to get into this. We opened the podcast saying how fitness has saved your life and kind of changed your life. When I talked to you on the phone, you told me some stuff that I had no idea of. I had no idea that's where you came from. Let's just take us back. Because we talked about the body and aesthetics and looking good, but that was not how you got into fitness. You mentioned on the phone what forced you to get into fitness. If you could go back and talk about that story a little bit and how you first got introduced to it.
Man, it's crazy. And another vulnerable point in my life, I grew up in a pretty dysfunctional family, which, man, everybody has problems. Everyone's pain is real. I think it's all relative, but I'm a young guy, man, family split up, ended up getting put in a home in the system.
How old were you?
I was 13. The first system I went in. And I'll tell you, it was like a military boot camp style. And, because I was getting in trouble. I was running around with my brother and man, I love my brother to death, but drugs have gotten the best of him. He's been on the street, in and out of prison. I mean, he's had a hard life, and I was kind of following his lead, but we were all we had. And the first time I went, I was 13, and it was a military boot camp. And I'll tell you what, you're in it, I was white boy in there, young kid. And I found my identity in fitness.
Because you're getting beat up, you're getting bullied.
Well, oh yeah, you get tested and immediately food gets taken. It's a scary place.
Survival of the fittest.
And I promise you, a lot of those young kids, they're probably in prison right now. I was well on my way to prison. And I'm telling you, and man, by the grace of God, I found fitness. And at the time, it was horrible because it was, running all the time, push-ups, fighting.
Yeah, how were you doing it at the time? Because I don't know much about that system. Tell me about what is it like living in that system and being in there, and how did you find a way to work out while you're in that system?
Well, we were forced it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was military style.
Really? Okay.
Man, it was up and at 'em early. We did PT, physical training, Man, it started, if I remember correctly, like 5:30 a.m. It was basically exercise all day.
And this is what we would call juvie. Is this the same thing? Okay, gotcha. What does juvie stand for? Is it juvenile detention?
Yeah, it was. Okay. And this one was Juvenile Detention Center. It was in Ocilla, Georgia. My first one. South Georgia.
First one.
Yes, I know. Yeah, place closed down. But back then, man, I mean, it was rough.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, I wouldn't take it back for the world. At the time, it was horrible. And that's how I found Christ, to be honest with you too, man.
Yeah.
Through my experiences. And man, we all know it. There's no growth without pain. The cliche, no pain, no gain. And see, I identified with all those other kids being athletic. And that's what absolutely instilled group fitness into my soul.
Yeah. So it was running that had you, what did it look like? What did the fitness aspect?
I mean, it was like pull-ups, running, push-ups, sit-ups, but it was just absolute. I mean, I can't even describe to you how hard it was.
Because you had never done anything like that, right?
Oh, no.
Like it sounds like up till that point, 13, with the tough family situation you're in,
kid,
you're just trying to survive.
My son is 13. And I think of that, at his age, I was there.
Yeah.
And granted, at that point in my life, I put myself there, but we were dysfunctional home, nothing was going right. And again, man, people are products of their environment, without a doubt.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And that's why, man, the system's broken. Poor kids stay in the hood, man. It's hard to get out of that.
Yeah.
Rich kids stay rich because it's easy to stay in that. They have a support system. And, I didn't have a lot of that. And and again, I look back on that and I'm like, man, such a young kid, but I identified with fitness. And that's how I ended up making friends. And I remember a guy that I actually got in a physical altercation with when I first got there, because you're going to get tested. And my food kept getting stolen. Finally, I stayed up that whole night and I said, man, I have to. And man, I'm just keeping it real. I was like, I have got to hit him. I'm like, I'm hungry.
Yeah.
And man, only the strong survive. And people will test you until you stand up for yourself. And man, he came over to me and tried to take my tray again. And I didn't eat that day because I hit him with my tray. And I don't like doing that. But sometimes, man, war is necessary.
Yeah.
And you know what? I put my own butt there. You make decisions in life. And, others have made those decisions. And you got some hard kids in there. And man, me and him ended up becoming friends. You know what I'm saying? And,
yeah.
But it
get
was
that
scary.
respect. You earn that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It was scary.
I think that's the language that we as guys and men can speak to a little bit more, is like there's a respect aspect there. And also sometimes you're right. War is necessary sometimes.
It is.
You can see it. There's sometimes a good reason to go to war.
And you have to stand up for yourself. And it taught me, and I wish that I could have been taught a lot of those lessons in a different manner. But again, God has a plan for every one of us. God knew my future. God knew where I was going to be right now. I am a believer and I believe that.
So how did that come about? So you're getting into fitness. How did you find God, or how did God find you in the midst of all this?
Man, that's a good question, because through pain and suffering, I turned to faith. Even at a young age.
Did somebody present it to you? Did somebody
not really
tell you? So you just started praying? Just
really looked up, sought out to God.
Yeah.
And there was a couple people in there, and God has always been in my life. I've always felt his presence. Even when I was ignoring him, I felt his presence. And God loves us all, man. And I'll tell you,
absolutely,
we forget, people that are in prison or people that are homeless. These are still God's children. Murderers, sinners, they are God's children. And I think sometimes in our society, we forget that. But, I needed God more than anything.
Yeah.
And man, I just felt his presence. And again, and I went down that road for a hot minute. I really did. And again, I'm glad that I did it. And I look in it, and of course, as a man, it put insecurity in me and abandonment issues in me. And then when I got out of there, not long, I was back with my parents, and my mom left. It was horrible, still, and then running with my brother. And I ended up back in the system at 15 to basically 17. And I ended up getting in trouble, joining a gang, running the street.
Yeah.
And that was the place where I really, really, because I was older, found fitness even more. It was the same thing. It was another boot camp style. And I'll never forget the day that I went. They picked me up from juvenile, and it's in the middle. I was in Texas at this point. It's in the middle of nowhere, and they drive, and it's a far drive from the juvenile detention center. And the guy's talking to me, man, I thought I made a new friend. You know, big old boy. I'll never forget. It's just this big old white boy. And I'm like, man, he's enormous, but he's so nice. And we're talking. I was like, so, you know, are they going to shave my head, or is my hair probably cool like this? He goes, oh, man, it looks good. It's short. And I'll never forget, we pull into the gate, and this dude looks at me, and he, out of nowhere, it was like a new dude. Oh, no. And he goes, and he's cussing at me. He's like, get the F out of my truck. Da, 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 da. It was a van. Get the F out of my van. And about 8 enormous men surrounded that van, pulled me out of it. And then right there's a tire on the ground. And they go, Halo. And I'm like, what? He goes, Halo. They made me pick up the tire, lock out your elbows over your head, and go run laps in the Texas heat. Man, I must have thrown up until I had none left. And then they just absolutely kill me. Then we go to the door, and they give me instructions how to enter their building. So you're supposed to, you knock on the door 3 times. And he goes, I still remember, he goes, because they called you Boot. Your name was Boot Fell. My last name's Fell. And he goes, you say, Sergeant, boom, boom, boom. Boot Fell, request permission to enter your building. And of course, I screwed it up. They did it all over again. Finally, I got it right. We go into this classroom. All the other kids are in there. And of course, they're laughing because they've all been through it. And he tells me where my seat is. And so now I just go over and sit down. And he goes, did I tell you could sit down? Did it all over again. My brother, when I went to bed that night, there wasn't an inch of my body that I could even move. Yeah. And the next day, I mean, I'm walking around there like T-Rex. Yeah. And so sometimes, man, and it's true, the human body can be pushed to extreme measures. Do I recommend that for somebody coming to me to my gym class? No, because I'm running a business. No, come back. Yeah. This isn't David Goggins here. But through that, and then, man, I was there for almost 2 years.
Wow. And getting pushed to the brink like that consistently.
But man, I went beast mode on them. And I got out, I got my GED through that. I joined the United States Army.
Yeah, yeah.
And man, I said, I don't know any different.
Well, I want to get to the Army. But so it sounds like you basically have PTSD from working out. What snapped in you to make you say, oh, I love this. I like this.
It just hit to a point where I'm like, pain is my comfort zone.
When did you realize you liked that?
I don't think I realized it until I got back in the civilian world and even in the military. Like I went and immediately aced my PT test, you know, and I didn't realize till I was probably, I don't know, maybe in my late 20s, early 30s. Because see, I'd never lifted weights before, because all of this was more body weight, running, you know, military style.
Yeah.
But then when I found a weight room, when I got out of the Army, I just immediately took to it and got completely obsessed.
Yeah.
And see, there's something in me. And you know, at 42, you look back on your life and you understand a lot more that you didn't even know then.
Absolutely.
And man, and I'll tell you, and for years, from a lot of that, I struggled. You can ask a lot of people that have been in my life for years. I went down a rabbit hole, man. I drank so much. And man, ended up giving up booze and walking another way. But there was a lot of pain and a lot of everything left over. But man, people are like, dude, you just have another gear. And I'm crazy. And I put that crazy in fitness. But again, I know it looking back on it. Look at all the people, even at my age now, man. When I see at my gym, I've seen marriages restored. I've seen people get sober. I've seen people look in the mirror and love what they look like.
Yeah.
I'm serving Christ and his children. And it's given a man a purpose, a street kid purpose. And when any human being finds purpose, they've found life. When
so good.
And when we're serving other people, and see, through all that bull crap and all that pain, you know, I would have done anything to change it at the time. But again, man, God knows what we don't know.
Yeah.
And you know, and my brother, man, bless his soul, he had many chances to get his life right and almost follow my lead, even though I'm his younger brother, but my brother didn't want to.
Yeah.
And I think at the end of the day, even no matter what you've been through, you still at some point make a choice in your life and say, man, I had enough of this.
Mm-hmm.
And I definitely made that when I got into the military.
You got to make a choice. And I don't want to skip over any of what you just said. You just gave a ton.
And I'm
sorry.
stuff.
No, that's awesome. I would love to get into a lot of that, because we can't skate over what you were talking about with your relationship with alcohol and that history there. When you're a believer, like you've obviously, it sounds like you started really early and you're 13, maybe 15 years old. You knew God was there and you were praying.
And I ignored him for a while too.
So that's my question. And this is a very deep question, but when you were struggling with all that, did you know at the time that, man, I shouldn't be doing this? You knew. Yeah.
But see, sometimes, man, when you self-medicate so much, you don't feel.
Oh, absolutely. And that's what I was getting to. I think on this concept, we all have stuff we struggle with. Everybody has, I think it was Abraham Lincoln who said, everyone's facing the hardest battle of their lives right now, and it's relative, the relativity thing. But at the same time, we all have to make a decision. Am I going to fight this sin, or am I going to give into it? And so often we ignore the act of making the decision and just go with what feels good immediately. I think we do that in our everyday lives. And I think it comes back to, like you hear about some of like Paul and some of the amazing early Christians that we hear about, and they talk about the closer they got to God, the holier they became, the more seriously they took their sin. They thought they were the worst sinners on the planet because of how seriously they took it. They knew the depravity of their soul because they were willing to look in the face of their sin and say, I can't choose you. But they knew how desperately they wanted to. And I think that's a lot of what you're talking about with this. Like we have that understanding of when we're doing something wrong, and then we got to make a choice, just like you're talking about. Yeah.
And not make an excuse.
Yeah.
And you know what? And I look back on my life and I look at some relationships that I've been in, and I always loved the NAAA, the steps, man. And honestly, I think that number one, admit you have a problem. That is number one in anything. And then there's, I want to say it might be step 4. I can't remember them off the top of my head, but apologize to people where you can. And man, I've made some mistakes through some of that, and I've tried to wrong my rights. But sometimes in life, man, you do some things, and unfortunately, man, you can't make them right.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, you have to move on and move forward. And at some point too, my brother, you got to stop apologizing for yesterday, because that man is so far gone out of me. Absolutely. Just gone. And, and I've tried to do my best to make amends for it. I've prayed and asked God, but again, I think sometimes people, and I'm definitely that person, kind of being raised by the wolves, sometimes you have to figure out things on your own and learn it the hard way. And again, man, I've had some help on the way too.
Yeah.
I really have. There's some people here in Birmingham that have believed in me. And my landlord, Carter Hughes at H2 Real Estate, I mean, he's helped me so much and believed in my gym and believe in what I'm doing, and he believes in what I'm doing. And I think in life, man, it's a series of what do you do with the unfortunate events and what do you do with the lucky breaks?
Yeah.
Because I think both of those define you as a human.
Yeah.
And but there's the thing, and I'm kind of all over the place. It's kind of hard to put my life in one sitting.
Yeah.
There is the one thing, even when I was drinking and drowning in booze, I still had the gym that kept me accountable to something.
Wow.
My first gym, I had a full bar in it. If you would have, I'm telling you, one of my clients said, this should be a reality show.
The first gym you owned?
The first gym I owned. Absolutely. And I still have a few clients from that gym that are in there now.
Yeah.
And my girl, Hannah, she's like, I can't believe this, because she knows the me that is me. Yeah. She's like, my idea of a good time now is like, man, can we watch like Dateline and be in bed at 8:00? Before I'm just getting moving at 8, and I drank from sundown to sundown. Man. But again, and then I learned, I got sober.
Praise God. Yeah.
And really turned to God. And I still had some mistakes that I had made. I went through a divorce and, her and I had, and she helped me get sober. Honestly, she was in my life for a big part of that. And I still look at that, and I still had some kinks that I had to work out, you know, because it doesn't happen overnight. But the fire was in me to change. And man, when a change is heart level, it's going to happen. But I still, man, always had fitness that kept me with discipline. And I'll tell you, a man without self-discipline is lost. And that's how I know there's a God too. Another thing, it's like, why can't I be jacked and eat birthday cake, you know, and eat like crap and order pizza? Because God makes you suffer for it.
Exactly. There's repercussions for all things. Yeah.
And the old saying, you know, nothing comes to you that's worth a crap without hard work or pain or payment.
That is the truth. I love that. I think I quoted it yesterday. I think I misquoted it actually, but it's that poem by Robert Frost, Two Paths Diverged in Yellow Wood. I think it's that one. But he talks about, and I took the path less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. And I think that's the choice we each and every day have to make. Another great quote. You may not even know that I'm a massive Harry Potter fan. I'm a huge Harry Potter nerd.
Me too.
Dumbledore has that.
I love Harry Potter.
Yeah, Dumbledore has that quote. There comes a time where we almost choose between what is right and what is easy. And that has always stuck out.
It was true.
So true. Yeah. Man, that's amazing. Okay. So let's move. So how old were you when you left juvie for the second time? How old were you?
I was 14. So the second time I was about 17.
Okay. And then you joined the Army when you were how old?
17.
So you went straight from juvie to the Army. Okay. What did that look like? What's life like then?
Man, I was like, man, this is wonderful. There's women here, you know? I'm like, wow, you know, that was great. And I'm like, all this food, you know, and I'm like, wait, and I have a free place to stay.
Wow.
I thrived. I loved it. You know, but again, I knew that wasn't for me long term.
Yeah.
And I look back at it and I'm like, man, I could have been retired already at 37, but you know, I look back, everything served its purpose, and that just instilled fitness in me even more.
And how so? How so?
Just because it was then, instead of, you know, you're kind of doing fitness as a punishment, you know, in the juvenile system. But then in the military, you didn't really feel like it was punishment. You felt like, hey, I'm training. I'm a soldier. My job is to be a soldier.
Yeah.
I was in an artillery unit, so it was combat arms. And again, it was just different. It just felt different. And it's kind of hard to explain, but.
Did you do any tours?
No. I don't know how. I was in during 9/11.
Really?
Don't know how.
Wow.
But
that's awesome.
Just wasn't in my cards.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's probably good. You know, I've talked to a lot of those guys who did go, and they've got some tough stories. And I think every one of those guys would say that they might not have, you know, wished they wouldn't have had to go through some of that. But so it might have been a good thing. So, but you were in there from 17 to how old?
I guess I was about 22.
22. Okay.
And then I worked, it's kind of embarrassing, but I don't care. I worked part-time at the Savannah Mall. To meet women. To be honest with you, I worked at Abercrombie and Fitch. You know, I was a young guy.
You told me that. Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty. And then when they said, "Hey, we have a new concept called Hollister," and they're like, "We want you to be a manager." And I was like, "Well, I don't have a college degree." That was kind of their thing. And and they're like, "No, we can override it." So that's what actually brought me to Alabama.
Really?
To Montgomery. And then, you know, I didn't have any roots anywhere. And and I don't care what anyone says. I love Alabama.
Yeah, hey, me too.
I love it, and it's just it's a great place.
Yeah. So with that college degree, they wouldn't let you be a manager, but eventually they made you manager. Eventually, right? They created a workaround for you.
Yeah, I was already. They hired me they promoted me to be an MIT, a manager in training.
Yeah,
and then but you know, that wasn't. I got there, and then I'm like, okay, and it just wasn't my vibe.
Well, it's a testament. The first off you got there is what you said a minute ago. Hard work pays off, and you were working hard. You were putting all things together, and they made a way for you simply because of that.
And you know, when I was there, I guess it was probably a year and a half or something. But they told me to fire a kid because he didn't look the part, and I was just like, you know, yeah. And I was young, and I'm like, I'm just gonna go bartend.
And so that was your next step. You went bartending.
Then I met a guy while I was bartending. He was in the wine business in Birmingham. And of course, this didn't help with alcohol, obviously, bartending to the wine business. And he was located in Birmingham, and he said, you should interview with my company. And I did, got the job, moved to Birmingham, and then went from wine to fitness. Because again, fitness was I always worked out.
Yeah.
Rain, shine, or hangover. I was always in the gym. I never missed.
What were you doing for fitness?
That's when I started. I was weight training at that point.
Okay. Gotcha. Like bodybuilding weight training? Or?
Just kind of, yeah, but not like I'm doing now, but more just kind of full body. And then as I progressed, I started getting into muscles, and splitting up muscle groups and just hitting it hard.
Yeah. What would you say is the main difference of how you train now versus how you train then?
I want to tell you about Vulcan Dry Needling. If you listen to this podcast, you likely heard Dr. Chris Temples on here for one of our recent episodes talking about dry needling and the benefits of dry needling. We're a big fan of it. I used to not be such a big fan of it because I didn't see the research showing that it's good to do long term. Well, research is coming out that we're seeing that it's great long term, particularly when it's paired with other modalities or other movements, other exercises. That's the way we do it at Vulcan. We're going to do it in the most research-backed way, and we're seeing really good results from it. People who have struggled with certain things for a long time, they go get needled, and then man, it just opens up their body and allows them to work through it or work on it. So we really like it. It's been great for our folks, and when done in a particular way, it shows great long-term benefits. And again, that's how we're going to do it. So if you're interested in dry needling, check it out. You can see it on our website. I will link that into the description of how to get a hold of us for dry needling. And until the end of March, we have a 50% discount on dry needling. We're doing it because there's so much fitness going on in March. We've got transformation challenges. We've got the CrossFit Open. We've got competitions coming up. There seems to be a lot of fitness going on front end of the year. So it's kind of a way that we're able to help a lot of folks for a little bit less. At the end of March, it will go back up to full price. So get it now if you want to. But either way, whether you get it before or after, it's great to do. It's good for your body, and it can help you get to where you want to be. Again, I'll put the information for that in the description, and we'll see you soon on it.
I've been a full body trainer.
Yeah.
For my classes. Now there's emphasis on different muscle groups. And again, for me, this is just trial and error for me. Mm-hmm. I'd always liked the way my body looked from full body training.
Yeah.
Because right now I understand that I'm, sitting at 230, 235 pounds. You're not going to get that full body training, but I love that lean physique, and again, and I'll go back to that at some point. But right now I realize that I have a targeted goal.
Competition. Yeah.
Yeah. And again, my own insecurities, like I said earlier, I always wanted to look this jacked, ripped, smaller. And I understand like the way I look right now is not everyone's cup of tea. But you know what I care about now?
What?
Nothing. Because I've learned to love me. Hannah loves me. Mm-hmm. I know this is for a goal. I don't care what anyone thinks about me anymore.
Yeah.
I don't. Mm-hmm. Because, and I care, of course, we all care about to a degree. That sounds a little harsh, but if you don't like the way I look, don't look at me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm a trainer for a profession, and you try at 42 years of age to get out there in your skivvies and be picked apart.
Oh, yeah.
I have a whole new respect for the art of bodybuilding. But again, it was a new challenge.
Yeah.
In my fitness. And, of course, I've been in business now for years.
Yeah.
And I could always hear in the back of my head, you should try bodybuilding. But see, I didn't want to do it because, and especially like women I might have been seeing at the time, or it was like, oh, don't get bodybuilding, barf, gross. And it just got to the point, and it's so encouraging that I'm with a woman now that loves and likes me. You know what I'm saying? Because we love a lot of people, but how many people are like, man, I love her, but man, I don't like her.
Yeah.
She loves and likes me and just understands this is a goal of mine. Mm-hmm. And again, if I win my pro card on my second show, and I'm a realist, I'm not a pessimistic guy, but come July 17th through the 20th, I'm going to be up against the best in the country at my age.
Yeah.
And, and I'm proud of what I've accomplished, but it's going to be, guys that have been posing, guys that have been bodybuilding for years. This is my second show. Mm-hmm. I didn't start bodybuilding till it was last year.
Yeah.
But it's amazing with the knowledge that I've built that I already had And really, because I went in my first show without a coach.
Yeah.
And I'm still writing my own diet. I'm still writing my own workout programming. I just have a coach that he'll help me in my cut. He's going to write my entire diet for my cut. But he's just helping me pose. And he's a hell of a support system.
Yeah.
He's a great guy. And I actually met him at my other show.
Yeah.
So again, it's just and I'm sorry, I'm probably rambling.
No. This is great. This is good stuff.
It's just a new challenge.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think a man too, when you don't have goals, I don't care how rich you are, how whatever age you are, I think a man without goals, you're going to get lost.
Yeah.
You should always strive for something. And I love getting out of my comfort zone. And I know it's still in fitness and everything else. But again, like I told you, I'm like, I don't want to bulk. I can't eat 5,000 calories a day. Oh my gosh, I'm going to get fat. Or, oh my gosh, I'm going to look weird. And now I'm just like, you know what? Let's monster mode. Go all in or not.
Yeah. And
I've enjoyed it.
And you've got your wife there with you. I mean, that's you can't understate that is when your wife comes alongside you and actually, they support what you're trying to do. And I think, we felt that my wife is a very, very competitive CrossFitter. And there has been times where I'm just the cheerleader. I just got to cheer for her. That's it. That's my only job. But I also know that if I didn't do that, if I didn't stand up with her and I didn't try to support her in those ways, that she would feel crushed. She wouldn't feel loved. I think it's the same thing in our regard too. If I'm doing something, my wife's not coming alongside of me for it, then it hurts. It's like, okay, I'm going to have to do this alone. And it really poses a lot of questions in your head. Should I do it? So the fact that she's with you is massive.
And then again, should anybody walk life alone? No.
Exactly. Yeah.
All, man.
We're made for fellowship.
We really are.
Yeah.
And man, and with my current gym now, it's like the community and fellowship in there. And, coming up a street kid, man, I just have because there have been so many times in my life, man, where I'm alone, where I don't have any friends, where you're here, you're there, you're all over the place. And man, when I see somebody lonely, and this is my thing, loneliness kills more than cancer. And for me, man, if I see anybody that, man, as long as you have a good heart and you're a good person, even if you made mistakes, because I've been there, always had a good heart, but was just lost.
Yeah.
And self-medicating and things like that. But man, if I ever see anybody that really has that, I'll be like, I don't care. Train in my gym for free.
Yeah.
I don't have the money. 6 months on me. Come on, let's go. Like, and again, that's me. That's my version of tithing.
Yeah.
Anytime I'm like, God, look, and what's better than helping other people?
Yeah.
And that's what I love about, and that's the other thing with fitness. It's like, it's all I know my whole life, but the community. And see, men especially, and I think I might have said this when we talked over the phone, men don't even realize how much we need community, because most women are communicators.
They're built for it. Yeah, it's so natural to them.
Yeah. See, I'm an emotional guy. Like, I always will tell you how I'm feeling. I don't know why. And I think it's great for a man to have a masculine side and a feminine side. I do.
Yeah.
I think, hey, man, I'll go to war with you, but hey, I'll cry with you.
Yeah. Well, I think it's just a man being more in touch with what a man is and masculinity. Like, for years, I guess this is getting on the other side of it, but like, you can't cry if you're a guy. You can't cry if you're a guy. Like, tears of grit. I love what Jimmy Valvano said. I don't know if you ever heard his speech. You know who Jimmy V is? Okay, yeah. So he had cancer. He's down on stage and he goes, I try to do 3 things every day. I try to laugh and I try to cry. And I can't remember the third to say my life, but he said, I try to cry, and that's a full day. And I'm totally with you. I think it's a very masculine thing to be able to cry and let your feelings come to the surface and let people know that you can be vulnerable. You have to be vulnerable to be able to develop any type of relationship, fellowship, so you're not walking alone in life.
And I think that's a mistake that I made in personal relationships, because again, we all have pain, we all have insecurities, and I think, man, I never really wanted to be vulnerable and let go, because man, it's hard to trust.
Yeah.
Especially when you've been dropped a few times in your life, and then, because I know it was their job when you're in the system, but man, these guys tell you you're nothing, you're a loser, you're gonna end up in prison, you ain't ish, this, that, and those things get ingrained in you.
Yeah.
And man, you got to kick those insecurities. And man, at some point it's just like, look, and you walls got to come down,
and you have swam against the tide with it,
man, brother. And you have to. And I know a lot of people have gone through a hard divorce, me included, or gone through whatever the case is. And man, sometimes you want to say, no, I'm done.
Yeah.
I don't have it. I don't have the gas. I can't, but you have to, because you got to keep moving and going on with life. And again, man, if you don't put down that wall, and you got to trust people again, you can't live in a shell, man.
What about fitness adds fuel to that fire? Adds more to the ability to fight against the grain a little bit when things get tough.
Again, anytime I've had anything tough in my life, man, there's been a road to go run on. There's been a gym to go push some weight in.
With or without a bar.
Yeah. Whatever. And I'll tell you, and especially owning a gym, there's been times, and even in my first contest prep, because I went in at 175, and man, I'm hungry.
Yeah.
And man, you would not believe, man, those last few weeks, man, the amount of pain.
Talk about that. So like, I don't know if a lot of our listeners know kind of the world of bodybuilding as much. I know it just from working with a lot of bodybuilders, but take us through that process. I don't think people understand those last few weeks before the competition.
Oh, it is. Yeah, I mean,
if you can walk us through that, if you don't mind.
I mean, because I'm looking at it, I'm like, okay, I've got to bring down my carbs, which I love carbs. I thrive on carbs. Yesterday, I had almost 700 grams of carbs. Okay. If you're training people, listen, you need carbs, but you want to cut at the end, you start playing with your carbs, and there's going to be some really low days. And I mean, you're training like a gorilla, but eating like a bird. I was almost, I'm not kidding you, man, so hungry and so fatigued. You can ask some of my clients, they're like worried about me.
Yeah.
I mean, I was almost delusional.
Yeah.
Hannah at night is like, is that your stomach? And I'm getting up, and dude, I'm like, okay, I'm eating like Splenda packs. I'm like, I need anything. I'm drinking like coffee at 2 a.m.
Yep.
And there'd be sometimes I just get up and like, well, I have a key to the gym. I would just go start my workout.
Because you can.
Yeah, it's like 2 a.m. and my gym's located by Dave's Pub.
Yep.
You should have seen this girl walks by my front door, and she's like hammered, going to the bathroom at 2 a.m. And then she sees this guy on a squat rack, and she kind of just turns and looks in the door and is like, what? And I'm like, this must look really funny to her, but
How much, okay, a couple days before the competition, how much water are you drinking?
barely any. I was drinking like 40 ounces.
So you've got no carbs, you've got no water.
No.
What are you taking in at that point?
A lot of chewing gum. Because I think at the last, because I went in at 175.
Yeah.
And I ended up cutting, and again, I didn't have a coach, so I ended up going in probably smaller than I'd wanted to, but at the same time, I went in as a heavy middleweight. And man, and I'll show you a few pictures when we're done, but I mean, it was like, and I got my body fat measured, and it was under 3.
It was miserable.
Crazy.
That's miserable. Yeah.
And that's another thing too. When I met my current coach, I'm like, I'm not going in at middleweight. and see, and still that judge and I wish I should have gotten his name, because another judge said to me, he goes, there's no way he's like, I just don't see you being able to put on that much size, because he had kind of chimed in, and the other guy's like, nah, he can. And it was just, again, and then I'm like, I don't want to suffer that bad.
Yeah.
And I think genetically I was better to go in bigger. And again, I don't know how I'm going to do. I know this, I'm not going to be outworked no matter what. I'll see where my genes take me. And in the world of bodybuilding, I don't care what steroid you're on or what you're doing. Everyone thinks, so you're going to get on steroids and you're going to be Ronnie Coleman. No, you're not. No. It's a genetic predisposition here. Yep. You have to have the genes. Yep. No matter what. All right. And I wanted to see, I'm like, where can my genetics take me? Yeah. And that's where, and my coach, now he's like, let's do it. And he saw me a few weeks ago, and he's like, have you stayed well under 10% body fat and put on, just since I saw him last, he's like 35 pounds, and I'm just eating and training. Yeah. Like every set, every rep's almost 100%. And again, man, I'll act like it sucks. Man, I love it. Yeah. Again, it's ingrained in me, brother.
I love, all right, let me ask you this on the steroid side of things. Let me ask you this. What percentage of bodybuilders do you think are on steroids?
Everyone that I know is.
Yeah, I was about to say, absolutely. So when you first started taking, What did you notice? What were the biggest differences that you noticed?
Well, and see, the only time that I've been on any sort of juice, which I openly admit, I tell every single client, and they will tell you, I drill TRT, testosterone replacement therapy. Okay, I'd never done testosterone till within the last few years of my life. My levels were low. I am a huge fan of being optimal. The studies are showing having a low, I mean, the testosterone is a male's fuel.
Absolutely.
If you have a bad testosterone score, and see, men's testosterone levels have plummeted since the 1950s. We're drinking out of plastic. We're microwaving in plastic. The air that we breathe, the added to everything in the food that we eat. And even my doctor's like, I can't believe your T is low. And see, I have both Alzheimer's genes. I've been tested, rest my dad's soul. He just passed of early onset. It's everywhere in my family. And my doctor's like, Scott, it's time.
So you're only taking enough to get to an optimal level to get to, but wow. Okay. So you're not even overdoing it. You're just getting to, like, I guess a level of normalcy, or is it over a level of normalcy?
I mean, it's a level that's over normal that I think is probably capable at because right now I'm running around 1,000.
Okay.
Which is a lot.
Yeah.
But again, I want to be very optimal.
Yeah.
And I tell every client I take tests. And again, and anyone can judge that or say what they want against it. Do the research.
In the world of bodybuilding, it literally is everyone. It really is. There's no way around it. Yeah.
And see, most of the bodybuilders that I know, they're on everything under the stars, sun, and moon.
Yeah.
And just being brutally honest, because about the last probably 6 to 8 weeks out, I'll get on Anavar and Winstrol.
Yeah.
And I'll up my testosterone dose.
So what's the difference between Anavar and Winstrol?
It's an oral, and it's just to help you drop water, stay dry, hard, vascular. It's child's play in the world of juice.
Yeah, and you mentioned on the phone, I thought this was interesting. You said there was one you would stay away from.
Trend.
Yes. Why is that? Because if you're in the fitness world, you probably know people who are on this and that.
And it's superior. It is probably the most potent anabolic steroid, but they inject it in cattle. And the side effects are absolutely brutal. And I actually just watched a video from Larry Wheels, probably. Do you know Larry Wheels?
I've heard the name.
Extremely strong. He's all over Instagram, and he had talked about his experiences on Trend.
Yeah.
And of course, Trend's going to give you an edge, but again, you got the top 1% already on the stage.
Yeah.
And then you give the 1% another edge. And, in the world of bodybuilding, they want you to look almost freakish, not normal.
Yeah.
Freakish is a bad word, but maybe it's not. I mean, depending on, who's looking at you. But even right now, I don't look normal. I know that. And trust me, every good bodybuilder has dysmorphia. Every good fitness person probably has dysmorphia.
Oh, yeah, to some level, absolutely.
From the mom that works out, when she drops her kids off at school, to the bodybuilder. And that's the thing with me, and it's running on insecurity.
Yeah.
Why have I always stayed this fit? Because it's all I've ever known. And it's what I've been applauded for since I was young.
And it's something that we have to look in the mirror and face too, for sure.
And I always look in the mirror and I'm like, man, you could be better here. Be better here. And I hate that, but I also secretly love it because it keeps me hungry.
It keeps you wanting to train.
Let me tell you, man, I always want to be hungry. Man, when you get full, you get comfortable.
That's the truth. That's the truth. Yeah.
When you have everything given to you, you're comfortable. And again, like I said earlier, where is the growth? How have I grown in my personal life, my professional life? It's from screwing up.
That's true.
It's from being hungry. And there's been times, man, when I was younger that I didn't have a place to stay. Me and my brother are sleeping in a car. Me and my brother are breaking into an abandoned home.
Just to find a place to sleep.
All of that is character building.
Yeah, it is.
You can turn it to good. Would I recommend that for my own child? No. Because there's a good chance you're going to be a casualty of war. But again, all of it has kept me hungry.
Yeah.
And again, so
let me ask you this on us. Have you ever experienced human growth hormone, like taking human growth hormone, or anybody taking that? You haven't?
I mean, I've had some people that I've known have taken it.
Yeah.
Like medically supervised for
Okay.
like IGF-1 and all that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I don't personally know a ton about it.
I was just curious. So we do, and you've probably heard of it, but blood flow restriction training.
Okay.
Have you heard of that? Yeah. So, I mean, I'm Clay, I've never done any drug like that. And I know some people who have, but the one way that I have found to kind of, it's not a biohack. It's about 35 years of incredible research behind it. We do it at the clinic with 9 out of 10 patients who come through the door if they'll allow us to. But BFR, so after you do, if you go worked out, if you went and worked out and hit it hard for an hour, hour and a half, you may bring your human growth hormone levels up about 4, maybe 5%. With BFR, after about 10 minutes, we can increase human growth hormone levels at a minimum of almost 9 to 10%. And then if we go at it really hard, if we do like a protocol with BFR, we can increase it by up to 30% of human growth hormone. So I know a lot of guys in the bodybuilding space have been using this. It's they've been doing the voodoo wrap bands for forever on their biceps and on their legs. I know I've seen Ronnie Coleman in videos doing stuff like that.
Monster.
Which he's a monster, but it's just spiking that HGH in your system, which spikes your testosterone. If your HGH goes up 30%, then your T levels are going to go up 15% to 20%, because it just follows down the chain. I didn't know if you had ever done any BFR or anything like that, but
not a ton. I haven't.
Yeah,
I've done none personally for myself. No,
yeah,
so.
I bring up the HGH on the side because I've had some clients in the past who would just struggle with some kind of joint issue, something going on, and some of them were able to go to their physician and talk with them about getting on a cycle of HGH.
Well, and
it helped them tremendously because it's just pure recovery. HGH is literally just pure recovery.
Well, and it's also anti-aging.
Yeah, it is.
A lot of anti-aging clinics are doing it. I mean, it's great for your skin. It's great for your hair.
Yeah.
And again, and I think that under medical supervision, I don't see a problem with
yeah.
Especially all I've read on it. I mean, it's expensive.
It's very expensive.
So that's going to be, a limited percentage of people that can probably even afford it.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't say that HGH is bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because again, being optimal IGF-1, being optimal, testosterone, and women sometimes even need testosterone as they age. You need to get, need is it's person to person.
For sure. Absolutely.
And how do you feel? How is your recovery? There's a million things that is person to person and one has to assess.
Yeah. And one of the great things about fitness, like a lot of these folks who will go to the doctor and they'll have their levels assessed and they'll have an examination for it. And they find out they're really low. Okay, you're low, but you're not eating right. You're not working out. You're not doing anything to holistically work on your body from that standpoint. So yeah, all of your levels are going to be out of whack. Fitness is the great regulator. And then you have your cases where somebody's eating right. And I would say the eating right thing is probably rare for a lot of people who are going through this, but maybe somebody's eating right. They have a very consistent fitness regimen and they're still low or they're still off. Yeah, exactly. And that happens to a lot of people.
And I used to, in the beginning, I was kind of embarrassed about it because I'm like, oh man, that means I'm like not a man. I'm a wimp. My T-score is low.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but again, it's a medical issue. And to me, I want to be optimal. And then again, everyone thinks, the world of anything like testosterone or steroid, it's so clouded with everyone has an opinion. Oh, he's a cheater. He's this, he's that. I get it. Professional baseball player, if he's on TRT, I mean, it can go on and on and on. But at the end of the day, people think, oh, I can get on testosterone and be jacked.
It doesn't work like that.
It doesn't work like that.
And in bodybuilding, again, there's no rules against it, right?
No.
Yeah, there's no rules against it. So it is a different thing than in baseball or another sport or for CrossFit for that regard, because it is illegal in CrossFit. So there is a thing on it. But in your sport that you're doing.
But see, and I'm pretty hard pressed. No rule with some of those women. And I'm like, that ain't natural, Yeah. But again, and and this gentleman is hated by everyone, but I think Lance Armstrong is a stand-up guy? I don't. But when I was living in Aspen, Colorado, this man, he lived there at the time. This man went up the Ute. It's a small little hike up the mountain. He went up it. I don't remember the time, but it was absolutely absurd. The man's physical gifts just from God are unreal. Mm-hmm. And, of course, he lied and everything else, but everyone else was on it. Mm-hmm. And I think when you get to a playing field of the top 1% in the world, I'm pretty hard pressed to think that many athletes aren't doing it and learning how to beat the system. And, because you look at some of these, they're like, what? Mm-hmm. But again, I mean, it's a big gray area.
Yeah.
But for me, I will be on testosterone the rest of my life, because it helps me recover. I just want to be optimal. Would you rather be optimal or not? Mm-hmm. And I want to be optimal because I run my body like a fine-tuned machine. Mm-hmm. And right now, I'm putting some junk in my body that's out of my diet normally.
Yeah.
Which
you're bulking.
Yeah.
You're trying to. Yeah.
I want to say I hate to admit it, but man, I love breakfast cereal, and I'm eating Frosted Flakes. I know, terrible. Lucky Charms, Cinnamon Toast Crunch, and man, I'm loving every minute of it.
Yeah.
Because the last decade of my life, so counting calories and doing, and when he's like, no, just eat.
Yeah.
And, breakfast cereal. Sometimes I'm doing a Pop-Tart pre-workout.
Yeah.
Have you ever put a Pop-Tart in the freezer? It's heaven. Pull that sucker out. I'm like, it's leg day. I'm eating a Pop-Tart. And another thing with testosterone, men, train your legs. Okay. It's great to have this huge upper body. Okay, but you need legs. And
absolutely.
It's your largest muscle group. It promotes the most testosterone.
And I want to say this. That's so true. Yeah, but training your lower body, you have more of a hormonal spike than anything else, better metabolite spike. But I do want to say, I'm not advocating for anybody to take testosterone. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying testosterone, from my experience with guys who have taken it and you yourself, it's highly misunderstood. It's highly misunderstood. And there are some times, especially in the medical world, if with low T levels, that guys who have gone through TRT, not going to optimal levels, but getting to a normal level, it's changed their life. And like pulling out of depression, getting out of anxiety, it really has. And right, I think since the 1950s, which you mentioned, I believe male testosterone levels are down somewhere around 40 to 50%. It's a dramatic drop from what it was.
Environmental.
It's environmental. Exactly. It's the world we live in now. It's cultivating.
And it could be that, like I said, I even looked on this. And of course, I'm eating Frosted Flakes and I'm just kind of looking at the label. I'm like, I shouldn't even do this. And it says, only one bioengineered ingredient. I'm like,
oh, yeah, only one.
Yeah, it's okay. One's better than 5.
Well, I'll get this one instead of Cinnamon Toast Crunch. It's got 3 in there. Yeah. So.
And then the junk that America feeds our children.
Oh no,
that's a children's cereal.
That's a whole nother thing. Like the ties with the lunchrooms. I mean, there's no reasons for some of the
fast food has ruined
the food pyramid. The food pyramid itself is terrible. The one we were raised with when we were growing up, it's nonsense.
And I'll tell you this, it's like fast food, and I accredit fast food to destroying a lot in this country, because anything that Americans in America, it's like, I want it now. And the hardest thing as a trainer, I'm sure you might see some of this. It's like you can come to Fell Fitness, and my number one goal, safety, number one. Because if you're hurt, you're not training.
Yeah.
My number one goal in fitness, and I think for any good trainer, should be their client's safety. Mm-hmm. You come to Fell Fitness, you're going to get a safe, great workout. And it's going to be fun. We're going to have a good time. We're going to laugh. The music's going to be loud. You're going to meet friends. The community is great. But the hardest part of my job is what you do outside of there. Mm-hmm. Because
that's the truth.
It is.
The lifestyle.
I cannot control what people do outside of the gym, but I have a few clients that just say, hey, I'm not going to quit drinking beer. I love pizza, but I'm just going to work out too.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I love it.
Yeah.
They're not coming in with any expectation. But then I'll have some clients that come in and, they think, oh man, I'm going to get this amazing body, but I'm still going to eat like crap. Mm-hmm. That's not how it works.
Yeah.
And even the guys, these top bodybuilders that are on every anabolic steroid, they're still eating measured food.
Absolutely.
I mean, even them. And it, and I think in America, everyone has this idea, and I really think it's started at fast food. It's like, give it to me and give it to me now.
Yeah, exactly.
And again, and some people come up to me, they'll be like, man, I want to look like you. And I'm like, no, you don't.
Takes a lot of work.
Yeah. And it's a full-time job. And again, I love it. I do it for a living. It's my career. It's my passion. No way will I ever not be a representation of what you can do with your body. And again, how far can I go at my age? I'm doing the best that I can, and you can ask Hannah. She's lovely. She measures out my food. She meal preps for me. She loves doing it. I'm like, great, and she sees how I eat, and I still, I'll have some wine here and there because I do have a wine background. And again, I was never an alcoholic.
But you're disciplined in it now.
And fitness keeps me accountable to that.
Absolutely, man, it does.
And it does, and it keeps such self-discipline in my life. And it's like, but with alcohol, because before I was just self-medicating. I was never an alcoholic. I just hung it up one day. I'm like, okay.
It's amazing.
But now then I have a glass of wine. I'm like,
yeah.
I love sober.
If you're really training hard and you're getting your body to a peak performance level for whatever your peak performance level is, and you take in some alcohol, if you eat poorly, you feel it. It will wreck you. A greasy meal feels just as bad as a glass of whiskey. It really, it hurts. So if you're training at the level you are, my wife, she's a nutritionist, and we talk about this a lot with folks, is nutrition probably is the bottom of the pyramid as far as building a healthy individual. And from a physical standpoint, we say the next one's exercise, but so often I see exercise as the fuel to want to eat right. As soon as you start actually working on your body, you're like, man, maybe I don't want to go kill myself at the gym and eat 4 donuts after this, because I just kind of erased.
It's not worth it.
It's not worth it. Yeah, exactly. I just erased all my gains with this one meal.
And when I try and tell clients, I'm like, man, just imagine. And I had one of my clients say to me, it has been ingrained in me when he started training with me. He goes, Scott, I've been embarrassed to take my shirt off since I was 12. I wouldn't go to the pool because I didn't want to take my shirt off. I was like, I got you. Like, all you have to do is show up. And again, to me, like, man, I've learned how to cook. I love healthy food.
Yeah.
I could go eat, because after my first show, and I love sushi, and shout out to my boy Abe over at Jinsei, one of my favorite clients. I must have put down 65 pieces of nigiri. I love it. Awesome. And then I'm eating, and I stopped at the gas station and got Reese cups. And I'm like, but then I'm just like, man, it just doesn't do what it used to do for me.
Yeah.
Man, I love eating healthy. And once you adapt that healthy lifestyle, you don't want it. And it's not worth it.
Yeah. This is a little bit of a segue, but I'm curious because everybody, especially the bodybuilders I've talked to, they have this area of their body that they're really focused on training. What is your area? Where are the areas you're trying to focus on with what you're doing?
Right now, and again, everyone's genetics are different.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And my coach, because I'll see him in person. I send him check-in photos once a week, and I've been really bad at that lately because just bought a house and running a gym, and it's like, it doesn't take that long, but I send him check-in photos, once a week, and then, I'll go see him in person. And the area I'm working on the most is my back. It's, a lot of people hold fat in their stomach, or they hold fat here, there, and other thing. My back's my probably number one target area. Yeah. It's where I hold my most body fat genetically. So I'm always ripping up my back. So that's probably my main target for the show. And legs. I really have tried. I mean, and it's insane. I used to have like really no butt. Like, my butt is enormous.
All right. What would you attribute to that? What do you think is the biggest thing? Squatting?
Squats, glute blast.
Glute blast. Like glute thrusters?
The machine in my gym, you kind of put your hands up. Yeah. Push, glute blast and squats. Yeah. And I'm telling you, if I can do it, anyone can. Yeah. But so I really want to just continue to build massive quads. I measured my quads the other day. They're 28 inches. I don't know if my genetics can get me to 30, but I just want to have enormous quads.
Got to get you on some blood flow restriction training. Got to.
Hey, man,
It's too proven. I got to get you on it.
and I've not done it. So man, and that's the other thing.
You'll have a huge difference.
And in fitness too. And again, like some people read a book, some people, and that's great because the science is there for everything. You need to do it. But with me, everything I've done has been trial and error.
Yep.
I was vegan for 2 years.
Yeah.
Loved it. And kept a ton of money.
How did you get your protein in when you were vegan? You had to be intentional. You can do it. You had to be intentional.
A lot of like pea protein.
Hey guys, I want to tell you about the Vulcan Hatch Cycle. It is a product that we have on our website. It is programming to increase your squat or whichever movement that you plan to work on. We use it on a ton of our clients, a ton of our patients, a ton of our nutrition clients get this as well so they can objectively track their progress with their body, their progress with their rehab, their progress overall with their training. What's cool about the Hatch Cycle is you're able to take 2 movements and cycle those movements in a way to where you can metrically determine if you're getting better over the course of 5 weeks. The Hatch Cycle that we use is a simple 5-week cycle. We like it because we can recycle it all the time. We're also not married to it for 16 weeks like a lot of heavy cycles are. So it's a 5-week cycle. I typically pair it with the front squat and the back squat. You can do it for strict press. You can do it for bench press, whatever movement you want to work on. Simply go into the cycle. You'll plug in your numbers. You'll have a week where you search for your heavy 1 rep or 3 rep, 5 rep, however you want to set up your cycle. We have it set for a 3 rep. You go in there and find it. And after you hit those weights in, the percentages will automatically match up for what you should be working on every week. And we have a week where you're trying to PR your lifts, and you have a week where you're doing isometrics and eccentrics. We follow in a way that's going to keep you safe, but make sure you're marching towards your goals. A lot of people had good success for our Hatch Cycle. We highly recommend it. It is $20 on our website, I believe, and you can check it out. And again, you can recycle it over and over and over again, and it never goes out of style.
Yeah.
Like Vega Sport, I was doing more shakes than normal, but tempeh, tofu, and believe it or not,
anything you could,
because vegetables are so low cal, you can eat a ton of vegetables. You can get a lot of protein from vegetables. Asparagus. I was eating a ton of it, and asparagus acts like a natural diuretic as well. So even when I'm cutting, I started banging asparagus. Man, it will dry you out. Yeah, it makes your pee stink as well, though. But a ton of veggies.
Yeah,
believe it or not. I was pay tofu, but see, my fat content ended up getting a little higher than I wanted. But again,
why was that when you were plant-based?
Just because the tempeh and tofu, I was eating so much of it, and it's still not very high in fat, but you eat so much of anything, like 1 serving of tempeh, like the bag, the little carton, whatever package it came in, it's still at like 14 grams of fat. And when I was eating that, 5 of those a day, it starts adding up. It's really easy. And that's why bodybuilding is so much easier. You can eat grilled chicken all day. You can eat shrimp. You can eat lean turkey. So it's a lot easier. But man, I love the vegan diet. Yeah. But it's, in Alabama, it's a little harder to be vegan because we don't have a ton of that here.
It's not accessible. Yeah.
And to be honest with you, man, I was in LA and I saw this guy and he was vegan. He was kind of complaining about the menu and something. And he's like, I'm vegan. I kind of judged him. And then I'm just being brutally honest. And that's not like me because I'm an easy target to get judged. Yeah, I am. Yeah. I'm aware of what I look like. I had a guy tell me last week, he goes, man, you're really cool. He goes, I totally would have thought you were just a douche. I'm like, thank you. But you have to be aware of what you look like.
That's the truth. Yeah.
And I know me walking in a room, in a tank top, a waist trainer, in 230, 235 pounds, you get judged. Yeah. And it's just how life is. But I was like, man, you just judged that guy.
Oh, totally.
And then I said, what do I know about being vegan? And I said, I'm going to go vegan for a week.
Okay.
And it started a week, then a week turned to 2, then to a month, then 3 months, 6 months. I was vegan 2 years.
Let me ask you this about, so I totally agree with you on that. You can get protein through the vegan. What did you notice the difference between being on, just a regular diet or an animal or, eating whatever, but compare it to a vegan? So like, what was your body comp differences? If you can remember, you might not even know if you weren't training.
I tell you what, man, I was leaner than even when I first got into bodybuilding and I got my body fat checked and I was, in the 4%. I was I was leaner. I was smaller.
This is on when you were vegan. Oh yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
I'm telling you, my skin cleared up, hair was shinier, sleep was great. You know, everything was good.
Yeah.
But again, it's just such a task.
Yeah.
You think meal prepping now is hard? Oh man, getting your macros vegan. I mean, it's tough, but see, and I ate my weight in fruit.
Yeah.
And see, fructose is a whole different animal.
Yeah.
I eat so much fruit, even when I'm cutting, man, I'm eating tons of fruit. And again, I'm eating things that I normally wouldn't eat.
Yeah.
And this has been another beautiful thing about, again, my now trial and error. You know, I can check the box. Hey, man, you bulked and become a heavyweight bodybuilder. And it's fun. And again, I'm learning so much.
I love it. I wish Ellie, my wife, was here to talk about some of the nutrition stuff, but I know on the vegan side, it's tough. There's a certain amino acid that just is not readily available in almost any type of plant diet or whatever. It's called leucine, and leucine. Yeah, exactly. So I know a lot of guys end up having to find a way around leucine, which makes it really difficult. But then I think she would also come back and say there's something a little different there. So I wish she was here to really ask that question.
And I'll tell you, and I loved it.
Yeah,
I really did. And I mean, you know, that's what I'm saying. That's why fitness is fun.
You either test and retest all this stuff.
And any challenge I'm up for.
Is there a range of motion difference in bodybuilding? Like, if somebody who has really long arms, are they going to be less ripped somewhere or have the less aesthetic, you know?
Just in general, not necessarily, but in general, you know, putting me on the bench press, you know, at 5'10" versus a guy that's, you know, 6'2", he's going to have a harder time pull-ups, bench press, and there's some arguments with
because he's longer. Is he going to have a hard time building the mass that he needs? A hard time there.
With taller guys, you see it in the legs.
Okay.
I've seen plenty of tall guys that still have a incredible upper body, but what I've noticed is a lot of taller guys just have a harder time lower body.
So like getting the aesthetics for the lower body. Okay, gotcha.
And seeing like C-Bum's 6'1", I think, and he's and what's the guy, Wesley Vissers, that just won Arnold?
Maybe. Okay.
I mean, the guy's, I bet he's probably 6'2".
Yeah.
The dude's physique. I sent it to one of my friends. I'm like, man, this guy's physique is crazy.
How tall was Arnold?
Arnold was, I think, 6'2".
Okay, so he's a taller guy too. Yeah.
And see, Arnold's a stud. I mean, he's the GOAT.
Yeah.
But in terms of bodybuilders now, you know, he's not close.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But again, the bodybuilders now are on different drugs and they have better equipment, and you know, but Arnold still, man, his biceps and chest are like unmatched. I mean, the guys, you know,
he blew up the whole bodybuilding scene. I mean,
his first movie, Stay Hungry, in Birmingham, Alabama. See, you never want to get full, man. Stay hungry.
That's right.
But Arnold's the GOAT. But I mean, I still looked at, and to see a guy like C-Bum, you know, and his genetics and his proportions. I mean. And I saw on Instagram today a side-by-side with, and I might be saying his name wrong, Wesley Vissers, who just won Arnold, and it had a side-to-side, you know, can he dethrone C-Bum? But I still looked at him side-to-side. I'm like, man, C-Bum's his height. Yeah. They're about the same height, and his quads are just, they're massive. Yeah. The guy's aesthetics are just nasty.
He has some great genetic aesthetic. Well, it's just fascinating me on the range of motion and the genetic aspect, like even male gymnastics. So male gymnasts, a lot of these guys, when they're younger, they're actually better on the pommel horse because their biceps and their arms aren't as big. And then all of a sudden their biceps get bigger because, I mean, male gymnasts are yoked. They are some great looking. They're great aesthetic. But when on the pommel horse, their arms are so big that they can't get around their arms. So when they're younger, their arms aren't as big and they can get around it. And the same thing in the CrossFit space. If there's the workout that just came up this past week in the CrossFit Open was a workout that had dumbbell snatches and burpees. That is a short person's workout and a half right there. You know, therefore, so the shorter you are, the better it is. If you're tall, sorry, maybe better luck next week, whatever it is. But I was wondering how big of a deal range of motion was in the world of bodybuilding.
And there's another thing is because you see a lot of people train with that kind of half rep.
Oh, yeah.
Range of motion. Which there's in a lot of eccentric training too, the way down.
Absolutely.
Which in theory, you get more gains out of the way back, the eccentric than the concentric motion.
Yeah.
You know, but it's hard to kind of untrain yourself to remember that. And I think there's a level of danger in it too, especially if, you know, maybe with a new client. First of all, bench press is dangerous straight up. But can you imagine
It's a lot of
new
people.
client on the bench press and say, hey, man, really focus on the negative? I can see him like blowing his shoulder out. I want to get those range of motion, a good pace, but to me, I train with full range of motion.
Yeah.
My squat, it's just, and maybe I'm OCD, but it's just my comfort zone.
Yeah.
And anytime, and that's another thing about most fitness people, there's an OCD there.
100%.
And, if you're going to be OCD, make it a superpower.
Well, what do
Eat
you,
the same food, do the same amount of reps, and then you kind of get to a new place where you gain some strength and you get a new high, then and you stay at that target.
if we're talking about to be good at, I'm not going to say to be good at anything because I don't think that's true, but to be good at the things that tons of people are doing, lots of people are doing, it takes, first off, it does take a helpful handful of genetic predisposition. You've got the genetics to be capable to do it, but it does take some being a little psychotic to be able to get there.
Excessive.
Yeah. Like, I mean, you think about all the stories of Michael Jordan and the things that, I mean,
Kobe Bryant.
I mean, but these guys, I mean, there takes some psychosis to get there. And I'm sure and in bodybuilding, I think we see that a ton because you have to be so detailed with what you're doing, especially the closer you get to competition. Like you're trying to hit your macros to the gram. Like you're trying to be exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, I know. And that there, in bodybuilding, the details are so entirely important. And I think you just nailed the whole conversation. You said, "Oh, I wouldn't miss." Whereas in most other areas, it's all right. Like I can miss it by 20, 30 grams. I'm not too worried about it. But everybody I know who's in your shoes, like, no, I'm going to hit the nail on the head every day because it's important to me. And you can tell, like, that's what's wild to me about a bodybuilding coach and probably yourself. Like you can look in the mirror and see, okay, maybe I had too many carbs yesterday. Like that's always been wild to me. These guys who tell me these stories, they can just look at someone and say, bam, like you were 2 grams over on fat. They might not say that, but they'd be like, you had a little bit too much fat yesterday.
And you may, like, if you ate too many carbs, you spill over and you the whole process of peak week. Which again, my first show I went in, and this is why it's going to be so great to have my boy Evan with me in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
He's going to fly up with me. We're going to pose. He's like, you don't have to think your last week. He's going to make sure I'm fed, eating the right thing. Of course, and I'll deplete everything, then blow it up. Hit carbs, my body will come back.
When do you do that before the comp? How soon?
It'll be in that last week.
Okay.
I'll let him call that. Probably 2 days out.
It's going to feel so good.
And he says, depending on how dry I am, he doesn't really want to cut much of my water.
Yeah.
Because you see these guys that some of these guys that take a diuretic or, and then they'll go on stage and they're not full. They look flat.
Yeah.
And my coach is like, I want you so ready that we don't even have to cut water.
Yeah.
We don't have to do anything but show up. He's like, I don't want you to have to hit the sauna.
Yeah.
And it feels good too, for somebody to believe in me like he does. And again, man,
good coach.
We all can win, lose, or draw. I care. Of course, I'm a competitor and I want to win. And to go out and do, my second show and get a pro card, my coach is like, I haven't coached anyone. He said he's coached one guy that did it.
Yeah. It's a big deal.
And it is. And I told, my soon-to-be wife, I said, hey, we're getting married June 8th. And my show's July 17th.
Yeah.
And he's like, dude, are you nuts? And I love it because, I'm like, no, I'm doing it. I've committed to it. He's like, okay, we're going to work it out. Your wedding day, you'll eat whatever you want. And he says, you'll wake up in the morning and you're going to get on the stair climber. He's like, probably an hour. Put your music on, burn it off, and then we'll start over. But, and again, I just got tunnel vision with it.
Yeah.
Again, and everyone can judge the person not in the ring. Everyone can judge the brother that dropped the touchdown pass. But at least he's there doing it. And for me, it's just another goal. But look at all I've learned.
I think if you have a goal, if you have a reason, if you have a legitimate reason for doing something, because there's a lot of guys, I don't want to get too pigeonholed on this to where it's just the fitness space, it's just the athletic space. If you put your head down and drive, you can go. I think of a lot of the saints, like a lot of these guys who literally, they sacrifice their bodies. Like there's some saints in particular who we know about. There's one guy, I think Jean Debreu, who was and from he did a lot of work in Canada, ministering to the Indians up there, and he was known as a swole guy. He was a big guy, and he went through stuff trying to minister to them, where he lost 50 or 60 pounds of mass because he was trying to eat like they eat. And he said, this is a sacrifice to God that I'm going to give to him. So just like Paul said, there is worth in physical training. Absolutely. But I do want to step back and say to some of these guys who, maybe they're going through a fast, maybe they're doing something like that. I'm fasting for the Lord. There's good in that. You have a reason to do it. But I think you have to have a reason, if that makes sense. Your reason, I'm training hard, like I've trained hard in CrossFit, all this stuff, like that is the reason I'm going to put my head down and go. But as long as the reason is as long as the juice is worth the squeeze, I think you can have that same mentality with anything. So I just wanted to put that out there too.
No, and I'll tell you this too, in my last show, and absolutely starving. And there's days I'm like, man, I'm almost delusional. I'm serious, because my hormones had to have been all out of whack.
Yeah.
Because, I'm training like crazy, and then, I'm hungry, and then I'm not sleeping because I'm so hungry.
Yeah.
Then my thoughts are just spinning because I'm like, okay, got to do that, because I get in this tunnel vision. And I told Hannah, I said, I understand now why people fast for religions.
Absolutely.
I got so close to God.
Yeah.
It was crazy because I'm starving.
Yeah.
And when you're starving, and it goes back to, I think, not comfortable. I was starving, and I'm just like, and what do you do, man? You turn to God. It's almost like you're talking right to him. And again, when I'm in the gym at 2-something in the morning, and the girls look at me doing squats, man, I'm listening to Christian music, like firing it up.
Yeah.
Throwing my hands in the air.
Yeah, I love it.
And and I'm just, and it's crazy. I really was like, I see why people fast.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing in between you and your spirit, almost, and to God.
It's about literally, first off, it is a sacrifice to God. It's a good sacrifice to him. And then secondly, especially the early Christians who made fasting famous. You hear about the desert fathers who fasted nothing but bread and water. They're almost their entire lives, just in crazy stuff like that. Well, they knew they lived during a time where at some point my name might be called, and I might have to die for what I believe. I may have to die for Jesus Christ. If I don't train myself now to be able to do that, then when it's time, when they've got the guillotine next to my neck, I will not do it. And they knew that. They had to train their body so that they could live up to the calling to which they've been called. And I think that, that's true in anything. You're about to step up on stage. You're about to go to this competition. You've got to train your body to do that. Like you can train your physical body and your spiritual body. And I think the fasting aspect, the discipline to do that, essentially you're taming your body. You're taming your desires to be able to reach a goal. It's amazing.
And you have no desire filled.
Yeah.
None. And, and I'll tell you too, I think that anybody, and, just to take it away from even a bodybuilding or whatever the case, or being an athlete, imagine the guy at home, right? With 4 kids. He already has to be at work at 8.
Yeah.
Then, he's got to be at work, and he comes home, and the kids are running around, throw him in the bath. His wife's cooking dinner, or he's cooking dinner. They're bathing the kids. Imagine the brother that his alarm goes off at 5 and he's like, I got to get up and go to the gym.
That's right.
That's hard.
Yeah.
That's as much of a sacrifice as anything.
Absolutely.
And that's why, but again, only the people that are willing to do the hard get the reward.
That's right.
It is. And that's what I'm saying. Like,
are you willing to tame your body? Yeah.
And no matter what, when my alarm goes off, it goes off every morning at 4:15, except Sunday. I used to work Sundays, and Hannah said, we're done here.
Yeah.
And good for her. Every client rejoiced because they're like, Scott, go home. And, I love my people, and I care about my people. And you can't fake care. Even people that the most naive of people will see through that soon.
Yeah.
And man, I love people. And we don't even know each other, but you know me. There's nothing else.
I get the feeling exactly who's talking right now is who you are all the time. Yeah.
We're now best friends. And to me, man, and I just don't, I want to be an open book, and I love and I care about people. And but I have to say, it's like, man, I commend all the people that come into my gym and because my alarm goes off, man, 4:15 every morning. And it's hard for me, but this is my livelihood. This is my job. I've got to be there. And would I be there anyways? Yes.
Yeah.
Because even when I was in the Y business, the gym, yes. But there might be a day I say, I'll sleep in today. I'll work out this afternoon. But the guy that has to work out at 5 a.m. or it's done.
Yep.
And he shows up at the gym every morning. And I got to give a shout out to my main man, George Rice.
He's that guy
who owns Ocean Restaurant.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But George works late, and he is there Monday through Friday at the door at 5:45.
Let's go, George.
Love it.
And I'm like, and everyone else would come up with an excuse to say, oh, I work late. I can't do that class. But it's a decision. And man, we all have that battle to fight. We all, have in everything. But again, man, if you don't have self-discipline, you've got nothing.
Absolutely.
If you just have a life of ease and say you've made all this money and then it's like, spend it and don't work out and do that, you're going to get lost. You've got to be grounded with Christ. You've got to be grounded. And that's why with physical fitness, I already know I can look at someone damn near and say, you're my people. You know what I'm saying? I'm not
just so you know,
you've got to be sitting at 235 jacked up, but I can immediately tell a brother that's got tunnel vision. I can immediately tell a person that I would want to be friends with. Because I think, to me, if you have any self-discipline with fitness and a commitment to anything like that, you're the kind of person I want to be around.
Amen.
Because you're hardworking, you're sacrificing, and and everyone thinks, man, your family needs you healthy.
Yeah.
They don't need you that's stacking 17 million bucks and you die and have a heart attack.
Yeah.
I would hope your family wants you around.
Yeah. Yeah.
Your kids want you to play with their grandkids, but you've lived such a sedentary life that you can't even get out there and throw the ball with your grandkids.
Yep.
And people have to remember that. You have to pay that price. You've got to look at your physical fitness and self-discipline.
You've got to discipline side,
like we talked about, man, with fast food and with everything else out there. But again, I'm lucky, man. It's what I do for a living. Yeah, it's hard hours, but would I change it? No way.
Yeah.
I wouldn't. I love it.
I love it.
And you got to have that passion and fire. But man, it's just about making a choice and having self-discipline. And that's what all the hell I've been through has taught me. It's like, man, get it done.
Yeah.
The old suck it up buttercup. No one cares.
That's perfect.
Nobody cares. Okay. Oh, wow. Great. You've had a hard life. Well, so has Tom, Joey, Samantha, Billy. They've all had a tough life too. And what I said earlier, man, what makes a man? What do you do in your lucky breaks? And what do you do in your unfortunate breaks? And I definitely say it's the latter of the two. Like, what do you do
when you fail?
Yeah. When you are just alone, lost your job, when you've gone through a tough divorce, when you've lost a child, like I can't even imagine that kind of pain. But what do? You've got to keep moving forward.
It's like Rocky says, right?
That's right, brother. I mean,
oh man, that is so good.
And the dude, I know we've talked about a lot today.
Yeah, no.
I hope that everyone that's going to watch this and listen to this, I hope I haven't been all over the place.
No,
I've got such a story, and man, and a passion for fitness, and I hope at some point, I think after the show, man, I'm inviting myself back, but have a post show, and I'll be like, okay,
let's do it.
Okay, I came in 10th, but top 10's not bad.
Let's do it.
And I even told one of my clients today, I said, if I go to Pittsburgh and win, I'll see what happens from there. I said, I know if I don't win, I'm not going to run around at 235 pounds. Because I can tell you, and you think of people that have been sedentary.
Yeah.
And can you imagine, man, if, you're 5'10" and you're 235 of body fat.
Yeah.
That's not good on your joints
at all.
It's hard enough, my man. I've lost a little bit of, mobility.
Oh, yeah.
Because
absolutely.
It's impossible to not have. I still move good. but I don't move like I moved at 175.
Yeah.
You just don't.
Yep.
So, and it's another thing, and it's another reminder of just going through something like, man, this kind of puts me in the shoes of somebody running around with some extra weight. I mean, it's hard in your body.
Mm-hmm.
You feel it, and this is muscle, and it's hard enough. Imagine, body fat.
Exactly. Yeah.
And again, choose your hard. Do you
choose your hard? Exactly.
Get to the gym and put in that hard work and suffer that pain, or do you want to, die early death?
Mm-hmm.
Want to not be able to play with your grandkids, or need to ride in a go-kart around Target because you can't walk?
Yep.
What's your hard? And and that's what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
Physical fitness, as the old saying says, it is a journey, not a destination. I didn't get to 235 sub 10 body fat and I've made it. Let's go eat barbecue and watch, talk shows. No,
yeah.
It's not the deal. And that's also what I love about fitness, because, and obviously talking today and talking on the phone, I can tell that you're passionate about your craft. Mm-hmm. You're very well educated in fitness. We talked on the phone. I was immediately like, I told Hannes, loved him. Brother is cool.
Appreciate that.
And, I can tell you're passionate about it, but you're going to evolve as well.
Oh, absolutely.
And that's the other thing, man. You're a fool when you shut your ears.
Mm-hmm.
If I have a client that says, hey, Scott, I didn't like that movement, I'll be like, well, what didn't you like about it? Mm-hmm. And I tell my clients, I'm like, and, I don't know if they're lying to me or not. I hope not, but I'm like, I ask all the time. I'm like, hey, did y'all like that workout? Loved it. I'm like, well, I hope it was a banger. Was it a good one? They're all good. Scott, love it. But I tell my clients, I'm like, if you don't like something, tell me.
Yeah.
If you don't like a movement, tell me. Because I'm not the end all be all in fitness. Mm-hmm. And another thing, about fitness, if you hate an exercise, stop doing it. You need to do something that is at least manageable for life.
Absolutely. Yes.
And I told my last client today, I said, when I'm done with this show, I'm done with bar squats. And it's the king.
Absolutely.
Bar squats are amazing, but I loathe them.
I think people will make that decision a lot. Like, okay, they walk into the gym and they see this workout and they're like, oh, I'm not going to do that, so I'm just going to leave. Just change it to something you will do. Change it to something you will do. Do something. Don't make it a yes or a no. Maybe it's not a yes, but maybe you can still do something. I think that's a lot of people just like, I don't want to do this today.
I'm like, and unfortunately, I have to get to the gym early on my leg day because it takes me like 45 minutes to an hour because I do 5 sets of everything.
Yeah.
If I start an exercise, I do 5 sets. A lot of people might say I do 2 sets here, I do 3 sets here, I do 5 of everything. Maybe it's that OCD, but with squats, it's 5 sets of between 315 and 335 pounds. I do 5 sets. And when I tell you I hate it, and I know there's many guys out there that squat heavier and they love it and they live for it. Like I wake up in the morning and I'm like, ugh, it's squat day. And I love every other leg movement that I do. I love legs.
It's not squats.
And I said to my client today, I said, I'm done.
Yeah.
After this show, I'm done. I don't want to do it.
But if you win, man, you got to keep doing what you do.
Because I'm that OCD. But that's another piece of advice I can give people. You don't like it, don't do it.
Yeah.
There's a modification. Mm-hmm. Like you said, do something else.
Yeah.
Fitness is never going to be for a person that hates fitness fun. Mm-hmm. But it can be funner. So funner.
We can make it work.
It can be better.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Just show up. How can you do it for life?
Mm-hmm.
Just with your age, not your ego. Mm-hmm. But I'm big at 42. I have still maintained the level of strength. I've maintained the level of mobility. I've knock on wood. You know what? I believe in God. I don't even know why I knock on God's plan. But, I've not really ever been hurt. I've dealt with a little bit again, I tweaked my shoulder a few weeks ago on the bench press.
Yeah, we talked about that.
Yeah, bench is dangerous, but I've been rehabbing it. Feels great. Earlier this week, I got on some equipment and was able to do things that I haven't been able to do because I've actually listened and not been that renegade and said, no, rest it.
Yeah.
If it hurts, don't do it. Work around it. Rehab it. Light lateral raises, just getting that shoulder and that biceps tendon feeling better.
Yeah. And we obviously, we deal in that space all the time. And we tell people a lot, if it's uncomfortable, it may be okay. If it's painful, let's back off of it and let's change it to something else. You can always scale it to something. But a lot of people, they mess up when they get hurt and they just quit working out. They say, okay, I'm hurt myself. Low back pain seems to be the worst because it's your whole body. You know, when your low back hurts, everything hurts. So low back hurts and they'll quit. As soon as you quit, though, I mean, there's so much benefit to having a high heart rate. There's so much benefit to working out and just getting that metabolite flow in general that if one thing hurts, continue to work out. Continue to do whatever you can because that body, you're going to set your body up to heal whatever is injured if you continue to work out. And then you can add in some rehab specifically to the area of whatever it is. And that will help it tremendously more than just stopping working out and trying to do rehab.
Yeah. And then 3 months up the road, you haven't gained 12 pounds of body fat.
Exactly. And it makes everything worse. Yeah.
And, keep moving.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Got to.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing. Learn your body, adjust if something hurt. I agree. But, that's like I was saying, if you hate something, don't do it. Well, for the most part, some stuff, you gotta force it.
You got to be disciplined and you got to go. But,
absolutely.
Well, man, we have had a long one. This has been a good talk, though.
Again, I enjoyed it.
Well, is there anything that is there anything you want to close with? But also, how can people get in touch with you if they want to connect with your gym or talk with you? What's the best way to do that?
I've got my Instagram, and my business model is I don't have a business model. I don't even have a business card.
Yeah. But you got an Instagram.
Yeah.
That works.
I have an email and I'm like, if you send one, you're better off sending me a smoke signal. I am very in person kind of guy.
Yeah.
But I've got my Instagram. It's Scott Edward Fell Fitness. So
I'll put it in the description too.
Yeah, Scott Edward Fell Fitness. And then my cell phone number, you can always get a text, is 404-735-0481. But I've really thrived, man, from really word of mouth.
Yeah.
And, I have such a great client base with such great energy.
Mm-hmm.
And again, this is out there for anybody looking to get into fitness. I don't look at me and get intimidated. I know that being self-aware, people look at me and they're like, no way, he's going to kill me or eat me. One of the two. No, our gym is so much fun. Anyone looking for community, a safe, fun, effective workout, you can come off the street and do it.
Yeah.
It's a great workout. I've come up with it on my own over the years through trial and error and just a combination of everything I've done in my life. And I love it. I think it's the best group fitness class that I've ever attended. I mean, I really believe in them with all of my heart. And so if anybody out there is interested, if you listen to this long podcast and made it this far, your first month's on the house.
Okay.
That first month's on me.
Well, there you go.
Didn't ask anybody. I said, all I want, I don't do contracts. I said, give me a 30-day notice. If you want to be here, I want you here. If you don't, I don't want you to be here. I want you to love the gym and I want you to love the people. And so far, man, everyone's loved it. So
I love it. Love it.
Well, it's humbling and man, it just wouldn't be possible, man, without God and without, the support group of people. And I just love Birmingham.
Yeah.
I love this city. And like I said, I'm not originally from here, but if you ask me where I'm from now, I'm like Birmingham.
Yeah.
It's a big secret. I don't want to be in Nashville. I don't want to be in Atlanta. I don't want to be in New Orleans. I love this town. Some of the best food. I love our mayor, Randall Woodfin. Randall works out with me from time to time. Great guy. I just love our city.
I love it. I love it. Well, guys, I'll put Scott's information in the description. You can reach out to him. I'll put his phone number in there too, because he said it on the podcast anyways. We'll put it in there. But man, it's been a great conversation. I've enjoyed it. You've got a heck of a story, like where you came from. And I mean, I just love that handle. I mean, it is a handle, but like fitness changed everything for you. And that's so cool. And I mean, we all do it for different reasons, but I mean, you're a testament to that pulling you out of a certain mindset and placing you in a mindset where you became disciplined. And I mean, that's just amazing.
And it's how I've met every one of my dearest friends.
Yeah.
I mean, and I got a text from a friend of mine yesterday, and I mean, it brought me to tears. I was laying on my couch and kind of in and out of sleep, and I just got this text from a really good friend of mine and a guy that I've seen him through a lot, and been on his side, and And he just sent me a text. He goes, "Hey man, I just want to tell you how much I love you." He's like, "I want to tell you I'm beyond proud of the man that you've always been, but truly the man that you have become, where you've come from these so many years." And he said, "Man, I couldn't have ever asked for a better friend." He's like, him and his wife, he's like, "We love you dearly, Scott. I just wanted to tell you, keep up the good work." And man, it's right there, man, just teared up.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, that's riches.
Mm-hmm.
That is wealth.
Amen. That's good.
And helping people and seeing people, man, just, feel good about themselves and seeing people lonely that have a home. They got a friend group. And that's what I'm telling you, man. This is for anybody, brother, that's out there lonely. Anybody that looks in the mirror and hates the way they look, and anybody that's, just needs family community. It's the gym for you.
Mm-hmm.
All I ask, man, is that you got a good heart. I don't care what road you've been through, and I'll shut up after this. I had a walk-in to my gym, and I'm not going to say the person's name. And this person came into the gym and said, this was just a few weeks ago, came into the gym and said, "Look, I just got out of prison, and started to get into the situation that got him in prison. And this person's like, I've changed my life. I've given my life to Christ. I need a place to get fit. I feel better on the inside. I've gained some weight." And I immediately just hugged him. And I said, "Man, I get it. I've been there." And he's been coming now a few weeks, and I'm just like, how glory to God. And to me, I'm just like, because I don't have walk-ins. You wouldn't know I'm there unless you knew.
Yeah.
And he's like, "I've just walked by here and walked by," and he is thriving.
Let's go.
And it's just another thing. It's just like, man, that's riches.
That is good.
To see somebody that's thriving, that's been to prison, that truly, I can already tell he was always a good person when he went.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, man, you can't put a price tag on that. And I think, and I swear I'll shut up, man, I think if we really, really look at what we have before what we don't have, and you cultivate what you do have in your life, not what you need, what you're looking for, man, everything will get found.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just been a blessing. And then, like I said, I cannot thank the people in Birmingham enough for supporting me. Carter Hughes at H2 Real Estate housing us. And I've told Carter, and I've told his great wife, Lindley, who just sold us our first house. I own a condo, but it's a pretty big house. And it's just like, couldn't have happened without some help and some people around. But I promised them both, I said, I promise you this place will serve the community in Birmingham. And it's done nothing short of that. And I'm damn proud of it, man.
I love it.
So
I love it. We will end on that note. That was awesome. We'll have you back after the show, and
real.
Yeah, we'll have you back after the show, and we'll talk about how the show went and how nasty it was 4 days before, and then when you got to eat the carbs again afterward. But we'll talk about all that. But guys, I'll put Scott's stuff in the description. Great. If you have any questions, reach out to him. And yeah, this is good.
Love it.
All right, man. See y'all.